drove out from North Carolina to Colorado for my daughter's wedding, myself and my wife, and had a couple of days to kill before we drove south to Texas to run some training. So we're like, hey, that's the beauty of having a van and not taking flights and all that. We're like, where do you want to go? And we pulled up a map and we looked and we like, let's go to the Little Bighorn battlefield, which is right behind me. This is the Battle of Little Bighorn, and we drove up here last night from where we are in Colorado. It's about 9 hours, and we the beauty is you can pull over the side of the road, take a look back there. We got a bed back there, we got a fridge, we got a shower, we got a bathroom, we got Vinny on the floor chilling, and that way out west here there's vast amount of distances between towns, so you don't need a hotel. Just pull off on a rest stop or in public land and sleep for the night. So it's pretty cool. So I'm a big history buff. I love history. I love looking at Civil War stuff and the American West. So this battle right here, the year is 1876. So just to set the stage, America's like 100 years old, and the Civil War's been over now for like a decade or more. Like, I don't know, like 70 years before this battle, Lewis and Clark came through, kind of in a similar area, and gold was discovered in California, so the Bozeman Trail was set up. The Bozeman Trail, settlers moving out west, and then Native Americans who did not want the encroachment on their land started attacking settlers. So the army set up 3 forts on the Bozeman Trail, which they basically got their asses kicked by the Sioux. The Sioux is 3 different tribes of Lakota with similar dialects, similar culture, so the white people basically pulled them all together as the Sioux. But as so the Fort Laramie Treaty was signed, and it basically said that the army would shut down all the forts, and they would give the Black Hills, which is about a 4-hour drive from here, which we're going to go to next, give the Black Hills to the Sioux forever, right? And then gold was discovered in the Black Hills. So that treaty got ripped up, and miners start going to the Black Hills, and the government put out in the January 1876, they said all hostile Indians must be on a reservation by January, which was a ridiculous timeline. And then Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, a bunch of Sioux, a bunch of Cheyenne, Arapaho, they're like, look, we're not going to the reservation again. So they basically set up a massive Indian village here, up to 8,000 people, 2,000 warriors, like 20,000 horses in here in the Little Bighorn. Okay, 3 armies came out kind of searching for them, having driven across this land a bunch of times. I don't know how you find a village in this vast expanse. I guess that's why you hire Indian trackers. Crow Indians helped them track the village, and when they found the village, they completely underestimated their opponent and attacked. Now, bear in mind, on the U.S. government side, you had Custer, very, very strange character, right? Graduated at West Point, bottom of his class, went into the Civil War as a lieutenant and came out as a general. All right, undoubtedly a brave man. You hear a lot of things about Custer. He was brave, he was adventurous, he was not that bright. He was probably all of those things, but you can guarantee he was very, very he was a bit of a jackass, right? He did stupid stuff, and he was arrogant. Okay, if he was alive today, I'm sure he'd have an Instagram account, and he'd be the guy believing his own Instagram posts. So Custer was one of the commanders that came up here, and after the Civil War, he was reduced in rank from general to lieutenant colonel because they didn't need that many generals. And he came up here looking for Sitting Bull, Crazy Horse, and the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes who refused to go to reservations. So that's where the battle started, and it did not go the way Custer thought it was going to go. So we're going to take a driving tour here. We're going to stop at a few spots, and we're going to talk about some stuff, and hopefully you find it interesting. Thanks. So this is called Deep Ravine, and just from a soldier's point of view, if you look at the terrain, it's ideally suited for like guerrilla warfare, hit and run tactics, right? You look at all the deep ravines and the gullies and stuff, and you can come around and attack an enemy without their long-range weaponry being a problem for you, right? Now, in some cases, the Sioux and the Cheyenne had better weapons than the U.S. Cavalry. U.S. Cavalry were using a lot of Springfield rifles, single shot, and about 200 of the native warriors had Winchester repeating rifles that they took off the battlefield or traded. So if you look here, there's a gravestone there of a trooper right there. There's one here, and then if you look back up the trail right there, you see all the headstones of all the troopers who got shot. So when you think about it, you're trying to, they came down off the high ground and tried to reach the village, which was on the other side of this ravine where the trees are. That's where the Little Bighorn River is. And they couldn't get across. So Crazy Horse and a bunch of warriors came up and met them here. And we're on this high ground just firing down on top of them. And with rifles, with bows and arrows. And bows and arrows in the hands of a Native American warrior were horrible, like very, very accurate and very deadly weapon. And even if it didn't kill you right away, if it slowed you down, then you're not getting back up that hill. So in the hands of the Cheyenne, the Sioux, the Comanche, the Apache, these are deadly weapons. And you can see the little illustration here of the troopers trying to make it back up the hill and just getting fired on from the high ground by the native warriors. Pretty interesting terrain. All right, to me, this is like the coolest part of this whole battle. The actual battle with Custer, where he died, is about 3 miles that way, straight line distance. And from here, they could hear the firing, but they had no idea that Custer had been overrun and killed. So when they initially came up, they came up this way, and Reno with his company went around this way, and Custer came up past here and went up to where he got in the fight. Now, the village, bear in mind, was 8,000 inhabitants, and it ran all the way along that low ground, along the Little Bighorn River in the woodline. They couldn't even see it because of the ravines, because of the trees. They could see bits and pieces here. So Reno comes around this way, have no idea what he's going to get into, gets into a big massive fight, dismounts, forms a skirmish line, doing pretty well, and then Crazy Horse gets involved. All his troops, he rallies the warriors, and they come and attack. So he breaks contact, and they end up here in this defensive position. Now, if you look at the map, it's kind of a decent defensive position, but down here in the low ground is where the hospital was, and then they took up all along the ridges, all the way around here, and they were being fired on from this high ground back here, but they stayed here for about 24 hours. So we're just going to walk the trail and point out some stuff. So the only surviving surgeon set up a field hospital in the low ground here, where all the men kind of gathered up. There was dead horses all over the place, there was supplies, and it was just a horrific scene in there in the low ground. So you can see here on the ground, you have an improvised firing position, a little slit trench. They didn't have many shovels, so they were digging with like spoons, hatchets, a mess kit. They were digging with anything they could. They also took dead horses and piled them up for cover, and boxes of rations, anything they can use. You can see with the terrain, in order to be able to see down that hill, you have to expose yourself. And when you expose yourself, you've got to come from fire from everyone down there that's just shooting up at this position. You can see there's another defensive position here, but look out there. Look at all the hilltops, ridges, valleys, tree lines. Everywhere had Native American warriors shooting up here. They had tons of ammo and tons of guns because they just took them off, like 400 dead at Custer's position up there. So they were just down there taking shots all the time. So you had to keep your head down up here. It must have been a horrific scenario. So by the next morning, the Native American warriors had crawled up this ravine to within, like, really close of this position, and the soldiers here, the commander Benteen, had them assault forward and fire because they were just so close. They could have taken this position really, really quickly. So they assaulted forward, killed the native warriors in the ravine, and then came back to their position. So being here on the ground, there was incredible bravery on both sides, like just insane. And an example of that is on the second morning, the troopers up here had run out of water. So the surgeon told the commander, look, the people that are wounded are going to die if you don't get water to them. So the commander asked for volunteers, and he got a lot of volunteers. And what they had to do was make their way down to that water source down there, Little Bighorn, through this ravine, scoop up pots and pans and canteens full of water, and then get back up here under heavy fire. And that took some balls, like that took some bravery. And but they did it, and they did it repeatedly again. Doing it the first time, you might have the element of surprise. Doing it again and again and again when they know you're there is pretty brave. Okay, but they got back here and they did save people's lives by getting that water back. I'm about to get struck by lightning here, so I think I'm going to wrap this up. All right, so Little Bighorn, southern Montana, absolutely worth a visit. Really cool to come to these battlefields and kind of think about it from both sides, how each side fought, and the challenges and victories from each side, without judging who was right or who was wrong. It was a different time. It was part of America growing up. So we're going to leave here now. We're going to head to Deadwood. It's about 4 hours, and that's the beauty of a van like this. We just go, and it gives you a lot of freedom. If we don't make it there, we'll just pull inside the road and sleep for the night. So until next time, thank you.